I was not happy. I was lonely. It was not easy at all. And I was not even happy at work at the beginning. So I did struggle.
Welcome back to Beyond the Buzzer, the podcast that examines the relationship between adversity, success, and balance for high-performance athletes. I'm Aboudi Al-Qattan.
And I'm Sam Douglas. And today, we've got a great episode lined up for you guys.
Nathalie Mamo has followed up a stellar basketball career with an extremely successful career in broadcasting.
She went from being the youngest era player to enter at 11 to being Lebanon's first women's sports broadcaster.
On top of that, in 2021, she was named UAE Sports Media Personality of the Year and is already doing so much else off the court that we're going to get into today. Nathalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. It's so good to be here. I'm happy to be on your show.
I'm so happy to have you on here. This is exciting.
Nathalie, do we miss anything? Any accolades you'd like to discuss before we go into it?
I mean, this is enough for now. I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of things throughout the episode. And I'm just looking forward to whatever you have to ask.
Nathalie, the first section of our show is typically called the shot clock section, where we ask as many questions as we can in 3 minutes, hoping to get quick answers out of you so we can get you more comfortable and the audience more comfortable early on. Does that make sense?
It does. Let's go.
Nathalie, what's been the highlight of your career so far?
Meeting Michael Jordan.
Which athlete, past or present, would you like to have dinner with?
Rafael Nadal.
Best subject at school?
Biology.
Favorite broadcaster?
Malika Andrews.
Most embarrassing moment on air?
This is a long story. I'll tell you about it. It was in WWE. I was interviewing a guy called R-Truth who had an invisible friend and character, and I had no idea.
Favorite restaurant in Lebanon?
I'll say in Sharif because it's the best Lebanese food you can have.
Favorite sports movie?
I would say White Man Can't Jump.
Most dramatic game you ever covered?
It's the most dramatic thing that ever happened to me. It's a game I played. It's the last game of my career.
We're going to get into that, so I hope we'll leave it there. Friendliest sports personality you ever met?
Ronaldinho.
Favorite musical artist?
I'm a fan of Coldplay.
Favorite athlete you've interviewed?
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Which country where you played had the best food?
Unfortunately, we traveled to not so really good places, but where did we go? You never have good food when you play basketball, so I'm just trying to remember where was a good place. I'd say Lebanon, honestly.
Do you have any secret phobias?
Okay, this is not something I always talk about or even anybody knows. I'm OCD when it comes to two corners. It means if I do something with the right hand, I have to go back and do it with the left hand. But I do it silently so that nobody notices. If I step on an arrow on floor with the right foot, I have to go back and step on it with the left. Yeah, so don't ask me. I don't know why I'm like this, but you asked and I'm answering.
That makes sense as to why Rafael Nadal is your favorite player, because he has the little weird intricacies on the court as well.
Exactly. I relate to him. Like, I know why he does them and I notice them very much. A lot of players do actually, but I don't know if it's very obvious to everybody, but I can see that.
Well, he's the most pronounced because he goes out of his way to not step on the lines and then the same amount of bounces every single time.
Yes, and the way he puts his bottles and everything and what he does with his hair. It's a routine, and I get it.
Sam, what stood out to you from those answers?
I thought she's going to speak a little bit about her phobia, about her nightmare she has about not being able to play basketball anymore, not able to dribble or shoot the ball, because I heard you still have those kind of nightmares.
How do you know that? It's true. And in fact, I was talking about this with a friend of mine yesterday, that when I stopped playing basketball, I did have these nightmares for a while. I stopped early. I still had so much to give, and I was 26. I was still the captain of my team. I was still playing for the national team. I was still at my peak, and I took a decision that was very hard for me. And I'm somebody who grew up in a family where basketball was our language. It was from my grandfather to my father, and then it was me. So leaving everything behind, leaving the game and everything that comes with it, and going to Dubai, I did have these nightmares, and I was not able to even enter a basketball court for like 4 years. And I remember that night when I first had that nightmare, I went to the mall and bought myself a basketball and went to just to try and dribble and shoot to see if I still have it. But yeah, it's I did go through that.
Can you still play till today? Do you know how to? You still got game?
Yeah, come on. Can you still play?
It's muscle memory. By the way, Sam's rusty. Him and I are gonna live stream a 101 in next week. But before we're definitely gonna type to get back to your basketball career. But one thing we want to discuss from those answers, you mentioned an embarrassing story that you went from WWE that you wanted to dive into. So if you don't mind giving us a little bit of context there. I grew up being a huge WWE fan as well, by the way. So I think it's hilarious that you were.
Well, honestly, I was not a big fan of WWE when I first started. It was a world that I was not very familiar with. It was like a challenge I wanted to take. I was also the first woman in the Arab world to ever host a WWE show or talk about WWE. And you know how the WWE world goes. The superstars are in character, so each has his own character. And I remember it was like 2 months after I started, I got familiar with some of the superstars, and then I was sent to SummerSlam, which is one of the biggest WWE events that happen every year. It's like the summer version of WrestleMania. And I was backstage, and there was this superstar, Truth, who in character, because every time you interview them, they have to be in character. He has an invisible friend, and I had no idea then. So I was just asking him questions on camera, and then he was just turning to like a completely empty space and just talking to someone that I couldn't see. And I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? And then he used to come back to me, and then I'm like, okay, let's try again. So I asked another question, and then he was talking to nothing, and I'm like, and then he's like, why aren't you asking my friend questions? And I was just on camera, like I can't say who's your friend, or so I started actually literally questioning an invisible human being. And then when I got off camera, I'm like, God, I had to talk with my producer. I'm like, that was embarrassing. Like that was not a nice place to be in. You know, another embarrassing. Now that we're talking, it's the moment I had with Cristiano on stage when he said, "I hope you," because I was freezing and he could see it the entire night. I was hosting the Globe Soccer Awards, and he was supposed to get his trophy, and it was in December in Dubai. It was so windy. It was right in front of Burj Khalifa, and I was getting the fountain's water on my. I was wearing a backless dress, and I was freezing literally. And then he got his trophy. He was looking at me throughout the entire night, and he was smiling. And I'm like, is he making fun of me? Because he could feel that I'm cold. So when he got his trophy, he got on the mic. He made this speech, and at the end, he's like, I really hope next year you're going to do this event in a warmer place, because this lady here has been freezing the entire night.
No way.
And this thing
Wow.
went viral in 24 hours. It went crazy all over Europe. They started writing like, "Who's this girl that Cristiano Ronaldo got work?" Then in Madrid, you can find like, "Georgina is jealous of this Dubai girl, God knows what." And then
No.
you started finding articles all over, rumors. It was like 48 hours of just like nonsense just because of this statement.
That's so funny. Well, since you mentioned meeting Ronaldo, before we go into the next section, Ronaldinho is the individual who made me fall in love with football, and he's someone that I think was generational in terms of what he brought to the game. Can you just touch upon meeting him and what that was like for a little bit?
He's very humble. He's very friendly. I've had the privilege and the honor to meet a lot of big WWE, not just WWE, big sports legends, and few are the ones who accept to do everything, who are always smiling, who don't play the card of like, I'm a superstar, treat me as one. And I remember so well, we were having dinner, and he was stopped every 5 minutes by somebody who wanted to take a picture with him. And I remember with the other ones, they used to ask some security guy to stand and not allow anybody in. I asked him, "Are you okay with that?" He said, "To me, it's 5 seconds. To him, I'd make his day." And this really touched me, you know, because not all of them are like this. And I found this very, very nice of him.
Wow, this is phenomenal. Actually, Ronaldo's one of the players that made me like football again, because I used to play football till the age of 13 before I gave up the sport to become a basketball player and never ever touched a soccer ball again or football again. And then when I came back to this region and seen him play, he made me fall in love with the sport again, like to actually enjoy. And for me to know how humble he is, this is amazing. You know what I mean?
He is.
You mentioned that you first started playing pro at the age of 11. Can you walk us through, if you remember, what it was like first stepping on the court, knowing you were so much younger than the rest of your competitors, and how you sort of grew into your role as you got older?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that I really come from a family where basketball has been a language you speak at home. My grandfather was a national team player, and then it was my father, and then it was me. And I grew up next to a club called Kahraba in Lebanon. I remember I was the only girl there, so I used to go watch all the guys playing. I'd mentioned Roni Fed because he played a big part of my in my career. I used to watch how hard he used to practice, and I used to be shy to join and like try to do all the tricks here, the ball handling he does. So I used to watch what he does, go back home, wake up early, go to the club when no one was there, and do everything I saw the day before. And then bit by bit, I was asked to join the boys' trainings. And I remember the coach came out one day and he's like, "We are in a form a women's team, and I would like you to join it." I said, "No, I don't want to. I'm happy to play with the boys," which I believe this is why my level got so much better so quick. But then I was forced to play with the women's team. I was 11 years old. And there was this incident that happened that I'll never forget. I remember I looked so young. I never tied my hair. That they used to call me Tarzan because I looked like Tarzan with my haircut and my green eyes. And it was a game against Antranik, and there was Ghenwa Ebene, who's I think you know her. She's the wife of Zid Khas.
Said Al Khas, yeah, I know her.
Yes, so the game was like 40 or 50 points different. As soon as I got in, the coach of the other team called a timeout, and he said, let her score because I will look cute scoring." And I remember I scored the first basket, I scored the second basket, and on the third, I stopped the game. I put the ball on the floor and I told them, "Listen, if you're never gonna defend me, I'll never become a better player." And 2 years after that incident, I was playing with Renoir and the girls in the national team and the women's national team. So yeah, this I remember this moment so well because it just marked my career and it made me just in 2 years just join the girls who just wanted to look at me as a cute little one.
Natalie, you said you made it at the age of 11. So prior to the age of 11, did you become that good because of the family background, because your grandfather and your dad, the influence of their basketball, the way they trained you, the way they influenced you to play basketball? Is that what helped you to make it at a young age? Is that the advantage, or was it a disadvantage having your whole family involved in basketball?
I'm happy you talked about the disadvantage of it because I did have a disadvantage having a father who was part of the federation before I joined the national team because I'll mention this later, but I always say that I inherited the passion for the game from the family. But what made me really much so good at this age was the fact that I really grew up playing with the boys. To be very honest, I had this curiosity to see what they do and imitate them. I had the ball handling at the age of 11 that I was famous for, to be honest. And it's only because I had it in me to want to become really good. I used to train for hours and hours, and I used to practice, and I put so much work into this. It didn't come on its own, but I did definitely inherit the passion from the family. But the rest was hard work and their support because they definitely
Mm.
played a big role. My father was part of the federation at some point, and I remember when I made it to the national team at the age of 13, a lot of talks were saying it was because of him, even though back then he was not part of the federation anymore. And I remember so well, he asked them in person, "Please do not choose my daughter because he doesn't want to hear the stuff I was hearing." And I remember so well, it was a national team made out of 4 coaches, and there were tryouts, and they had to each place the name of their 12 players. I made it regardless, and ever since I don't think my dad played any role in anything that I've accomplished.
You spoke a lot about the work and the countless hours, and this is very important for all the young girls out there, the young women out there that are trying to make it. Tell me a little bit more about those hours, and did you have somebody that you want to give credit to that helped you get to where you were back then in basketball?
When I signed my first basketball contract, I was an average student at school. And I remember my mom telling me, if basketball is ever gonna, we're stopping basketball. And ever since that day, I graduated first from high school and first from my college with high distinction. And I had to become the best at everything I've done. And I always say it's about the discipline that I had of just being I was competing with myself on a daily. And I always say the hunger I had to just be better every single day shaped me into the person I am. And it's something that I repeat in every speech I make today, is that this game has so much more to offer than just skills and fundamentals that if you take with you to life, you become a champion in life and not on court. It's much more. There's so much, like, the commitment, the early hours, the long hours, the dedication, the discipline, the principles, the values. Take all of that and apply them in anything you want to do in life. There's no way you're not going to make it. And if there's anything I learned from this game, it's this.
Well, it's good that you mentioned that, because I think with sports in general, when you start to put in the hours that no one sees, you can actually see yourself develop slowly. And especially in the context of basketball, like maybe, you pick up a ball and you don't know how to put the ball through your legs. And then, a week later, all of a sudden you're putting it through your legs twice, and you feel like you can actually see the developments you're making. And I think it's such a good metaphor for the rest of life, where it's like people might not always see the back end and they might only see the front end, but you know what it takes to get there. And so you have to actually just replicate that in anything you do in life.
Yes, I think my neighbors would agree to this, because they were the ones who used to hear my dribbling every day, and because I really used to practice a lot. And I remember, when it burns, when you dribble so much, it starts burning. And I loved that feeling because I was so young and I had really small hands. I remember I was 12, I could catch the big basketball, the size 7, not even the
Wow.
woman's size. Just the nerves in my fingers have become so strong that I was capable of just holding the ball with one hand.
That's hilarious. So listen, we are the reason you're on this show is because you do so much off the court, right? But before we switch on to what you are currently up to and how you transitioned, you retired quite young at 26, right? And it's something I can relate to. I also stopped playing at 25, 26. And for me personally, it led to a lot of identity crisis and a lot of uncertainty about like who I was and what my role in this world was. Can you walk us through, first of all, why you retired at 26, and then we'll get into some of the actual circumstances of that day?
To be very honest, when I say I retired at 26, everybody feels that it's a very young age, and it is, because I still had so much in me to give, and I could have played at least maybe 6 or 8 years more. But for someone who has started at 11, and you guys know how much time this requires and how much dedication and how much commitment, I've sacrificed so much for this game. Like, I sacrificed my teenage, I sacrificed my entire life basically for basketball, and by the age of 26, I think I had accomplished everything an Arab player could have in terms of what I would have liked to win, where I would have liked to see myself. And I think then I passed through a period of time where I did question, am I ready for what's coming? And the answer was no, because I was tested and I got the offer that made me move to Dubai a year before I stopped. And I turned it down because I was not ready to give it all up. And I don't think I would have been ever ready to do so. And if I'm fully honest, the reason why I left at that time was, yes, I did receive this great offer from Sky News Arabia. And but also it's because I was in love, and I was in a very serious relationship, and it was the person I was with that supported me into this move and that helped me make this happen. But and then it hit me that yes, I did hurt stopping, and you go through a certain emptiness because this game fills something in your life that nothing replaces it. There will be a gap you live with. They say you'll replace it. No, it's not replaceable. It's always there, because you do get highs from the things, but it's nothing. It's not comparable. But no, I don't regret it. Not a second in my life, because had I not taken that decision the day I took it, I wouldn't have been where I am today.
Wow. So first of all, I want to ask, it's kind of a combination question. The first question, yes, you retired early, but the way you retired, the way last game was for you, and the way Riyadi pulled out of that last game, did you know going into that season that was going to be your last game? And do you have any regrets that you moved to Dubai with your, of course, back then, your love? I don't know if you're with him now or not. Do you have any regrets about that? Because we all want to play that last game, and we want to ball out, and we want to say, yes, I'm done.
I ended on my terms. Like, that's the big thing, right? You always feel like you want to end on your terms, and it's never possible.
I did end it on my terms, if I'm being fully honest. It was a season where we had very it was a final game between us and Antonique, and it was a season where we had a big chance to actually win the championship for the first time with Riyadh. And we were in this final because Antonique had the biggest names. They had like almost 8 players from the national team playing with them, and we were ready. And we had won a game like from during the regular season. And it was the first game, unfortunately, with the problems that the men's team had with the federation, because we were playing the game and they were playing the game at the same time. And they decided to pull out of the game while we were playing. And our coach received a call then, I remember, first quarter, and he was asked to pull the team out. And we never finished that season. And it broke my heart because I was the only one who knew this is my last game. If we don't continue the season, I had signed my contract. I was the captain of the team, so I never mentioned anything about it. So when he made that decision, I knew. I went to the locker room and I remember I literally cried my heart out and could understand why, but I knew. I knew that was it, and yeah. So it will always stay like a heartbreak in my heart.
And about your ex-love, do you feel great about that move you made, or maybe you should have came back and played one more year and walked out on your terms?
No, honestly, if there's anything good that came out of this is he gave me the best professional push, because coming here was the best decision I've done. This country here has opened doors for me that I would have never really dreamt of. One, because I was the first woman to present sports in Lebanon, and it was a challenge that took me to a lot of places. So as soon as I came here, I was working for Sky News, but at the same time, I was receiving opportunities left and right. I had the chance to move from the Arab world into the international scene by hosting very big things, to reaching a place today where I work with the biggest sports organizations. And I'm talking about the NBA, I'm talking about WWE. I've checked a list that even if I had a dream to even write one, I wouldn't have thought that one day I could do these things. And no, there's no regret whatsoever.
So let's dive into that a little bit. You mentioned you had a contract offer at 25, so a year before you retired. What got you to the point where you were able to actually start entertaining life after basketball when you were still playing? Were you reporting in Lebanon? How did you get into it? And then how did you take that step to be able to get this offer in Dubai?
I always say, I never chose this field. I never chose this job. It chose me back then. My Arabic was really bad. I did not speak good Arabic. I spoke with a Frenchy accent. And the reason why I got on TV is because I used to go on a lot of shows as a guest, because I was so young playing for the national team. I was so young winning championships. So they wanted me always as a guest on TV shows. And I remember when MTV opened the channel again in 2009, I was asked to be the first woman to present sports. And I turned it down at the beginning because I was very shy as a person. 2, I did not speak good Arabic, and it's not something I've ever learned. And I was scared, honestly. I was scared to fail. I've never failed in anything done before. And then they're like, try, give it a shot. And there's something about this job that is so addictive. You do 5 minutes on air, you want 10. You do 10, you 20. You do 20, you just want to make it your life. And this is what happened. This is how it started. And within 6 months after I started, every channel in Lebanon wanted a woman presenting sports. And I started doing shows, getting offers. And then I got Sky News calling me, offering me a big offer I couldn't refuse, which I did refuse back then. Then they came back again with a better offer and the boyfriend back then.
That was part of the offer. Huh?
No, actually, no. The boyfriend, the reason why is because he wanted to go to Dubai, not me. It was never something I wanted to do, but we were very serious back then. And it was something I should have never said no to begin with. But yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because, and I think Sam and I are aligned on this. Specifically, when you say you do 5 minutes, then you want 10. I'm starting to find that the only thing, and I love my full-time job. I work in venture capital. I work with amazing people, and I genuinely love it. But the only thing that's ever made me feel the way basketball made me feel is when Sam and I get on here and we turn our phones off and we meet people like you and our other guests. We had an episode last night as well, and it's funny because it's very easy to get in a similar flow when you're in an interview as it is to get when you're on the court, where your brain stops thinking and And instead of thinking about what move you're going to do or what question you're going to ask, it's very much seamless, and it's very like it flows in a very similar way. So I think Sam and I are also starting to experience a lot of what you're saying now. You mentioned that within 6 months of them hiring you, every single, sports broadcasting company in Lebanon wanted a female presenter. Before people realized that that's a normal thing to do, was there any sort of pushback? Did you feel like there was resentment? There was difficulty in establishing yourself? What was that first initial 6 months like?
To see a woman presenting sports, it's as if you had the duty to prove your credibility. As soon as I saw a woman, they're like, oh, okay, so she's just a pretty face reading a script. And it was so hard to tell people, no, I do understand sports. I speak sports. I follow sports. I can analyze sports. I can understand sports and prove it every single time. Because the mentality we had in this part of the world, and I'm going to say this in Arabic, which is they say, شو فهمها هاي بنت, and I used to get that. Like, what does she know? Like, and it was a challenge for quite some time. And with time, you can tell if a person is just reading a script or they actually really understand sports and know sport. And I think I was able to win the crowds because I honestly, if sports was not my job, it's my passion. So I wasn't working. I was already in my field. And I think this played a major part in what I did and where I am.
I don't want people to think your transition from Lebanon to Dubai was easy and simple. Talk to us about Sky News and the drive you used to have to do on a daily basis from Dubai to Abu Dhabi and how tough that was on you. Because I don't want people to think it was very easy.
I feel like I've known you for so much, so much about me. If I'm being fully honest, the transition and the move to Dubai was the hardest thing that ever happened to me. And what people see is they see a successful person on screen who's happy and who's making it. But that was somebody who was very sad. And I did go through depression, to be very honest. I lost 10 kilos. I wasn't happy at all. And I had to commute. I had to wake up every morning at 4:45. I would never forget because this is what time my alarm was set. It was 4:45 a.m. And I had to drive to Abu Dhabi every single day to be ready on air at 8. And I had to stop basketball because you live your entire life playing basketball from 6 to 8 or 10. And then it was like the Control-Alt-Delete button on your computer. Whatever you're going through, you go to practice, you get out of it. And all of a sudden, I didn't have this. And I had problems. I was not happy. I was lonely. It was not easy at all. And I was not even happy at work at the beginning. So I did struggle, to be very honest. It was not easy at all. I stick there for a while. I left them at some point, came back with different conditions. And then I got used to it.
My question to you, what kind of advice would you give someone that's looking to break into this field now that you have the experience?
Well, it's not an easy road. It's a very ungrateful business, I would say, because you can be something one day and you can be a nobody on the next one. So you have to always keep your feet on the ground because the camera is misleading. And not everybody knows how to deal with whatever it brings. Sometimes people take things for granted and then they go through hardships once it's gone. You have to learn how to always be able to live without it. And it requires much more than a pretty face to be on camera, to be very honest.
Honestly, if you can be blunt and open and transparent, what is the toughest challenge to be a presenter?
Fans believe they understand sports better than anybody. If you're a Manchester United fan today, you believe you know the most about Manchester United and nobody else knows more. So it's hard to please everybody, especially when it comes to sports. The second thing is that you're not allowed to be human when you're a TV presenter because no matter what you're going through, no matter how you feel when you open your eyes, no matter what's in your heart, you have to wear your makeup on, wear that smile, and look like you're invincible on camera because this is how you have to portray yourself. And this is something that's not always easy because when you're on your desk, sometimes you don't have to look good. You can have your pizza and wear your joggers. When you're a TV presenter, you can't do that. You just have to look invincible all the time.
Well, as a Man United fan, I will say I do know more than the coach, but I do think that's a very valid point.
There you go.
But it's true,
Let
right?
alone being a girl trying to aims or give her opinion.
I'm so glad you speak on that, Natalie, because we do all work in this industry where people sitting and watching who can't do, by the way, what we do. And I say we, but you guys played at a much higher level than I did. It's like these guys and these girls have this opinion on like what we should do. It's like, why don't you come on the court and try yourself before you say something, And I'm sure it's even worse with broadcasting, right? Because as you said, like this is really a place in an industry where no matter what you're going through in life, you got to put a smile on your face. And it's so funny that people can be dealing with their own things, but they never once consider that someone else that's on TV is dealing with something. They just assume that that's their happy life and they make comments. And I'm sure it's been very difficult, but I'm sure it's also been very rewarding for you to get up and to keep showing up every day.
I actually have a question, Aboudi, for Natalie before you move on. Since you've been a presenter, have you ever had to talk about a very close friend or a player you really care about and you had to kind of call him out on the way he's been playing or she's been playing?
No, because honestly, in what I do is I didn't have room to commentate or analyze or criticize. Basically, I was sports, but I was placed one day in a very unfortunate position where I had to read the news about a friend who was a player who passed away. It was Roni Abu Jawde. He was a basketball player who played for Sagesse in 2002, and it was very, very, very tough to stay composed because you're a human, but you get sensitive. You cry. I remember I even cried once on a show with the Victorious. It was a very sensitive moment where they did a surprise to one of the players. I remember the producer in my ear, the director actually, he was like, don't cut, zoom in, don't cut. And I'm like, and then those tears made it the mostly watched episode then, just because people like to see sometimes that this presenter is human as well. When they break it, when you're not yourself, it's also good. It helps because I remember when I used to watch the news, I used to present. People used to wait for these seconds when they zoom out and the news presenter and the sports presenter start talking, but you're like, you're not, that you can't hear. And they're like, oh, they're friends. Oh, there's this and this between this and that. People love these things. When they see that this presenter also is like human and they're not just robots reading or anything.
Well, I just apologies that you had to go through that because I can't imagine how difficult it was. But again, it brings up another point, which is like, people criticize, and what they really just want is a bit of proof that these people that are behind the screen are just like them. It's like almost misery loves company, right? But as we transition towards the tail end of the interview, you mentioned meeting Michael Jordan when you were young. How did that happen? What kind of impact did that leave on your life?
It was August 2002 in Santa Barbara. It was a Michael Jordan flight school. I knew I was going to meet him. And he used to come every day to give lectures about different things, free throws, one-on-one. Like he was there. And then at the end of the night, they used to play 5-on-5, him and his friends. And we used to sit and watch. But I was so lucky because there was a day assigned for group pictures. And I happened to be sitting next to him. And I remember so well that I was wearing T-Max, which were the T-Max were very white Adidas shoe. And I was a big Air Jordan and Nike fan, to be very honest. But then, I don't know, I was wearing these shoes. And in the picture, you can see that I was just like trying to touch him. Like my knee is touching his, my shoulder is touching his. And then he looks at me and he lifts his foot and he steps on my shoe. And he's like, T-Max, huh? And I'm like, I was 16. I said something stupid. I'm like, oh, I had my shoes in Lebanon and God knows what. And it's like, oh, Lebanon, how is Lebanon? And he was speaking to me, but in my head, I was just telling, like, I couldn't realize that I'm having this conversation with Michael Jordan actually. And I remember on that same day, he did a lecture for the free throw shot, and I had won on that day the free throw competition. And then he had to choose three players, and whoever scores the free throw shot would get the shoe he was wearing. He chose the first, he chose the second, and then he's like, you. And I remember it was Santa Barbara. It was so cold. I was wearing a hoodie and I was freezing. And he threw me the ball. I didn't catch it. I almost like broke my finger. I remember so well, but I didn't want to act like I'm in pain or anything. So I threw it again. I held the ball. I went on the free throw line, and there was Michael Jordan standing right next to me, just making noises, because he wanted me to miss the shot. Then he's like, I think she's going to be our first winner. I wish. I barely hit the rim. I couldn't score the shot.
Oh,
Yeah. But it's a moment I'll never forget in my life. But you know what's the moment I'll regret for the rest of my life is back then. It was 2002, and he had a team of people helping him in the camp. And there was this one guy who I saw for 8 days, day and night. He used to coach sometimes. He used to referee some game. He used to play sometimes at night. Do you know who that person is? It was LeBron James. That I couldn't bother asking him for a picture or anything. We used to high five him on a daily. I even have a picture of LeBron James and Michael Jordan that I've never shown anybody because I want to know what's right to do about it. That you can't find anywhere on the internet. He just looks like a little boy sitting next to God, but we'll see what to do about it. But one day I'll have to disclose that picture and show.
that's iconic.
You know how often we hear that story about MJ, by the way, in the shoes? He does that so often. He will not let anybody slide that's not wearing Jordans.
Really? No, because you know what's funny? Because last year I saw T-Mac. I met T-Mac and I had an interview and I told him about the story. I told him what happened. And he's like, I'm sure it's because you're wearing Adidas and not
Yeah.
Nikes.
He is very strict. He won't talk to you if he sees you wearing anything else other than Nike or Jordans. He will not talk to you. He will call you out.
Well, I would wear anything.
You also went to a LeBron basketball camp as well. Is that correct?
No, it was this same camp where LeBron was one of the people helping in the camp. But it was just 3 or 4 months after the camp that he signed this $90 million deal with Nike. But in August 2002, he was a nobody, and we really didn't know who he was.
I think you didn't know who he was. The whole America knew who he was. He was a sensational high school player.
Yeah, but when you have Michael Jordan next to him, who cares about LeBron James? Like, I was 16, all I could see and care about was Michael
You've said so many wonderful things in this interview, but that just proves you're on the Michael Jordan over LeBron train. So I don't know if I can. We might have to cancel the entire thing, guys. Honestly.
Come on, MJ number 1, Kobe and LeBron number 2.
I love LeBron. I love LeBron, and you can never deny what this guy has done in terms of numbers to the game. But the shift that Michael Jordan has done, no player nor sportsman has ever done this in any kind of sport. Honestly, you know what reminds me a bit of this is what Caitlin Clark is doing today for women's sports and for women basketball. She's doing amazing. It's something that I haven't seen any woman do in any kind of sport before. But what MJ did back then without the social media is something incomparable. I'd say yes. Number 1 is MJ. Number 2, Kobe was just lovable. Like, you can't not love Kobe, the Mamba mentality, and everything that came with Kobe Bryant.
Preach, preach, preach.
But who comes first, Kobe or LeBron?
Guys,
I don't know if I'm going to lose some people out there, but I would say LeBron.
Nathalie, I want to ask you, what's next for you? What would you like to accomplish still? I know you just launched a new business. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, I mean, in fact, I'm sitting in it. It's the first sports collectibles store in the UAE. I'm surrounded by legends over here. It's all like very rare items, signed the jersey, shoes, balls, cards. And I'm so happy to meet in a big community of collectors here. It was not something I was part of, but when I was asked why did I choose this, I believe that behind every piece of these collectibles, there's a story of a champion. There's a story of somebody who sacrificed so much, and they're worth sharing, telling, and looking. You look up to it. And if there's something I want my kids to learn one day, or my nephew, my niece, is how these people became worthy of being framed. So that's why I'm in this. What's next for me is, I mean, I still have a lot of dreams in my and I'd still love to do a lot of things, accomplish so many things especially for women's sports and women basketball in the region. And I'm actually working on this now. Let's see where it goes. I don't want to talk about this because it's not sure. But I'm pretty active into capitalizing on the identity I built and somehow paying it forward.
Can you tell us the name of your business that you're sitting in, and how did the idea come about?
It's called Legends on the Game. It started with friends of mine. One of them is a collector himself. He's been collecting for years now, and at some point his collection was worth so much, and I was telling him, I remember when I met him, I said, That was like 15 years ago. I said, if you're ever going to write your will, I'd like to write things. I had no idea how much they're worth. Now they're just worth a lot. And when he decided to open this business, he came to me and he's like, I would like you to be my partner. And I said, yeah, like blindly. And this is how it started.
I actually promised him I'd come back and buy my first pair of the cards, the ones that are quite high.
I'm warning you. This is very addictive, by the way. All you have to do
So
is
he warned me.
You first pack, and then you'd want to come again and again and again.
That's why I bought the jersey in January. I haven't been back since. So I'm gonna go when I'm in a mindset that allows me not to get addicted too easily.
By the way, speaking of cards, I have cards that I've been collecting since I was, I think, in 8th grade, and I kept collecting basketball cards till I was a freshman in college, and then I stopped. I still have them. They're in Orange County, actually.
Show them to us. I'm sure they're worth a lot of money and you have no idea.
And give me 20% commission.
I have some Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson. I have a lot of legends, so I will definitely share them.
You should send me pictures. Send me pictures of these and I'll tell you.
I will, honestly. I'm going to take you on that.
Natalie, last question before we enter the last section of our podcast. One of the things now that accompanies not only being a sports person, but a broadcaster is a public persona and a public profile. How do you deal with that? With knowing the spotlight's on you and people might be trying to find something wrong with what you're doing or what you're saying. And what's that like on a daily basis, especially somewhere like, Dubai, where it's very easy to recognize people. It's very small. So I'm sure you get a lot of attention when you walk around.
I'm an athlete by the end of the day, so no matter where the cameras are going to take me, it's never something that's going to get to me or is going to make me change as a person. Yes, people wait for you to do the mistakes. When they see someone doing good things, that wait for them to do something wrong, and they'll magnify it and they'll start spreading rumors. But this is part of anything you do in life.
What a response. As we enter the final section of our show today, we have this section that's called the three-peat, where we're going to ask 3 broader questions just about life in general. Feel free to answer it in short form or long form. Are you ready?
Ready.
I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. First question is, if you were in a room with everybody you ever met, who would you gravitate to and why?
You know this one. It's Michael.
It's Michael. It's always Michael.
It's Michael.
If you could fast forward 20 years into the future, how would you want to be described? What is your ideal legacy as an athlete or an individual?
Well, I'd like to be remembered as a woman who broke barriers, who broke a lot of barriers in women's sports, whether I'd say especially in the TV world. And I'd like to be remembered because in 20 years I'll be doing more. Who's someone who lifted women's basketball in the region.
What's a belief you once held firmly that has since changed, and what caused that change?
I don't know. I think loyalty is the biggest asset someone can have. It's not always found, it's not always maintained, and it's not always protected. So I just learned that I don't trust much. I don't trust a lot, and I don't trust people fast because I did have my share of disappointment. And I'm not talking about loyalty in relationships. I'm talking loyalty in everything else in life, and friendships and work ethics and everything.
Natalie, just want to say thank you so much. Genuinely, such a lovely conversation. What a pleasure to meet you and hear your story.
Thank you, guys. I had the pleasure.
Genuinely think a lot of our audience is going to learn a lot. So just want to say thank you so much. Honestly, it was a great to have you on.
Thank you, Aboudi.
Thank you, Natalie. This was absolutely phenomenal. Thank you for taking the time. This was amazing.
I gotta say, Sam, easily one of the episodes I've enjoyed most. Crazy story, but also I feel like she genuinely spoke from the heart and was very much happy to open up about the different, ups and downs she's had in her career on and off the court. So, I mean, I'm so happy with that episode. What do you think?
I enjoyed it a lot. Natalie is a very well-rounded person. And for her to end her career short at 26 and be so successful beyond basketball, phenomenal story. I love it. I think she's going to inspire a lot of women that are looking to get into this field or whatever after basketball. Inspiration for sure. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and like the video.
Wherever you're watching the pod, please hit that subscribe button. It makes the biggest difference to Sam and I and ensures that we can keep bringing you guys fresh content. Another one done, Sam.
Another one, baby. Great job. That was a phenomenal one. This is amazing. I'm loving this.
See you soon, brother. Always a pleasure.
All right, brother. We out. Peace.